Welcome back to the Casual Obsession Horror Podcast, where we watch bad movies and disagree about it sometimes. This week we are talking about Friday the 13th, which came out in 1980 with a budget of $550,000 and with a box office get of $59.8 million. How about that? I am your host, Jeff, who is trying to put a bunch of information on the front end of the episode so that nobody notices that I didn't take any notes this week.
I'm sorry.
Well, right alongside Jeff, I am Emma. I also didn't take notes, but I have opinions.
I'm Noah, and apparently the only one who took notes.
Yeah, you were sitting right next to me. Nina, who is also a host. And I don't like slashers, and that's gonna continue the trend right now.
Spoiler alert.
We
haven't even gotten to the ratings.
Ooh, boy, the ratings.
But that's not what we're on yet. We're not on ratings yet.
Oh, right. We have our little episode outline that we have to
Jeff, you gave us the introductions of us, and you did kind of the introduction of the movie, but is there anything else about the movie?
Yeah,
so
you
give a
non-spoiler synopsis, right? So,
yeah.
basically, the general plot of the movie is that there is this summer camp that's been closed down for a long while, and this guy is trying to reopen it. He hires some people to come help him run the place, but then mysterious tragedies occur because the place is cursed, allegedly. And
Camp Blood, cursed.
Yeah, I think that's as far as I can go without
What
any
an
spoilers,
uncreative nickname.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are there any fun facts that you learned about this movie? Or happen to
not
know?
many that I can mention without spoiling.
Okay.
But I do have a couple of things that I can talk about without any spoiler issues. If I can just find where I put it on my phone.
I have a couple fun facts that I don't think are spoiler.
Ooh, go for it, Nina.
I know this because I was contracted to make a little sign for the record store I work at. This is and also the movie came out in 1980, so it's kind of like not that fun of a fact, but it is the 40th anniversary of this movie this year, and I got to draw a little sign of Jason with a little cake that said "Happy 40th birthday, Jason."
Aw.
So that
That's
was
really
a fun
funny.
one. It was
For
really
reasons
cute.
that I'll get into later.
Oh
Yes.
boy.
Oh my gosh.
So,
And then the other thing.
yeah.
Come on, Jeff.
Yeah, go for it.
What was the? Oh God! Now you made me forget it. Kevin Bacon's in this movie.
Yep.
I feel like
Yes.
not
Is that
a
your
lot
only
of
trivia?
No, I'm looking right at a fun fact, but I don't know if it's considered a spoiler.
Kevin Bacon jumps on a bed and just destroys
No,
that
it's
bed.
the snake thing.
Oh yeah, they did kill an actual snake
They
in the
killed
making of
an
this
actual
movie. I was
snake
gonna
in-
get to that when we hit the content warning section.
Animals were harmed in the making of this movie,
And you see it happen.
and you see it happen on screen.
And it doesn't
kinda
even
sad.
serve any kind of plot or character development. It shouldn't have had to happen. It's pretty
Yeah.
dumb and a bad thing that it happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, fun facts about the soundtrack. The soundtrack of this movie was made by Harry Manfredini, who went on to make the soundtracks of all of the sequels as well. I think all of them, at least. Most of them, certainly. And he was, you remember last time when we were talking about Michael and Halloween being inspired a little bit by the shark in Jaws?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The soundtrack of this movie was also kind of inspired by Jaws.
Oh.
That makes sense, though.
Unsurprising.
It shows, in my opinion.
Because, the shark is not actually seen for the majority of the movie, but the music always cues you to his presence. Mm-hmm. And Harry Manfredini decided that in the making of the soundtrack for this movie, he never wanted there to be music playing when the killer wasn't present.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I like
hold
that.
on. Now I have to rewatch this movie.
Because he didn't want to manipulate the audience. He wanted the movie to be able to do that kind of work by itself without his soundtrack being manipulative. So that's why you get so many long stretches of scenes like the coffee making scene or the fixing the generator scene, where there is not even any dialogue, not any music, nothing, just all the sounds that you would expect to hear while performing those tasks. And it winds up serving as such an incredible tension builder in a way that having a soundtrack in those points just wouldn't. So, yeah I'm real impressed by his ability to just kind of check his ego and stand back and realize that that's the best thing he could do for certain segments of the movie. I think that's a really cool idea for a soundtrack composer to go into a movie with.
Yeah, I would agree.
Now, that said, the soundtrack of this movie itself, I am violently 50-50 on the music, because there are some points where I think it's really, really good and other parts where it's just very hokey.
Mm-hmm. Like that banjo part where there's just like this ripping banjo solo.
It is a rad. Those boys are just shredding that banjo
and it's so
the whole way
loud.
down the road. And it's
like
so
I didn't
loud.
remember it being that unbound. Like all of the licensed or what felt like licensed music inclusions were so loud.
Very loud. It didn't come across the same way as a lot of the rest of the soundtrack.
And I feel like that's because the rest of the soundtrack probably was one of those things where like it was recorded live viewing the movie kind of thing. Have you seen stuff like that?
Yeah.
Oh, do you think that's how they did it?
Yeah. I don't know, but I would go so far as to assume that it's not beyond the realm of possibility. You know?
Okay.
That makes sense.
But regardless, it was balanced properly on the original score versus,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
the shred banjo stuff.
I didn't actually know that the thing like came from this movie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that was probably my favorite part of this movie, was discovering that.
Yeah, that is where that's from, and it comes back in all of the sequels. Just another one of those, kind of like hearing Michael breathing all the time.
Yeah.
It's just, cueing you that the killer is there.
Yeah.
We're getting dangerously close to spoiler time there. So
This is true.
why don't we hit the ratings and then move into the spoilers?
Okay.
Let's
sounds
hit
good.
the ratings.
And I got a lot more fun
first.
facts once we get into the spoilers.
Okay, so once
Cool.
we get into the spoilers, we'll start with spoiler fun facts. So I, as many of you have known, have been pretty optimistic about the movies we've watched, and I've enjoyed them. And typically, I'm one of the one that gives higher scores. But this movie, I hated. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10.
Oh shit.
I am
That
so
hurts my
excited to hear
soul.
more about this.
Oh God, I'm excited to get into it.
All right, I'll go next so we can get the low ratings out of the way. As with all slashers, this one's a 5. Amongst slashers, this one's like, I don't know, like a 6 or a 7. It's up there. I mean, how did I rate Halloween? I don't remember.
A 6
think
or a
like
7?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so this one's an 8. I liked it more than Halloween. I'll say that much.
Wow.
So you have a completely
Okay.
separate rating system for slashers?
I do.
Just a completely
Yeah.
different set of numbers.
All slashers are 5s on my like full rating of
Right.
actual movies that I do like.
But not
and
all
then
5s
within
are
that
equal.
5, as we got like 5.xyz. So
Okay. And you did like
This
this
is a
better than
5.8.
Halloween, though.
I did, and
Okay.
I will get into why later.
All right.
I'm alone here. Okay. That's fine. Whatever.
Noah?
I give this movie a 9-star rating.
Wow.
This is one of my favorite franchises. Even the shitty ones are still very fun. I don't think I rated a single one of these movies under 6 stars when I watched through them last year. I love them all, and they're not good. I will preface my 9-star rating with other better movies will get lower ratings than this, because this is not an objective scale.
It's a subjective rating system. Yeah,
This is a very subjective rating system, and in my subjective rating system, the Friday franchise is some of the most fun I can possibly have. And while I do know that this is not my favorite Friday. Not by a
certainly.
long shot.
It's not the most fun.
And Fridays that I like better will be even rated lower than a 9-star. Because of the subjectiveness of the system.
Well, now you're just being
So basically,
silly.
what Noah's saying
He picks
is
numbers
that
out of a hat. None of his ratings
it doesn't
mean anything.
fucking matter. He just likes
picks
this
numbers at
franchise.
random. He'll give his
Friday's
favorite movie a 1. He'll give a movie that he hates a 10. Nothing means anything.
I'm just saying, Fridays 3, 4, and 6,
Yes.
if we're going off of this system, are 10-star movies. But I'm pretty sure I rated them between 8 and 9.
They
would
are
not
that
put
in any
Friday
system
3.
because they are just good movies. But continue.
But yeah, I love this movie.
You know,
And when we get spoilery, I have so many things to say, and I can't wait. Go ahead, Emma. What's up?
last episode, I was really excited because I wanted to see 9-star Noah, but not like this. Not like this.
But 9-star Noah is so excited.
I'm a 9-star man.
Not on this movie. Why does 9-star Noah show up on this movie?
Because it's a 9-star movie, perhaps. I've made absolutely no bones about the fact that I love the Friday the 13th movies. They are perhaps my favorite series of movies in all media. That said, this one is not the most fun of them, and something that lost my train of thought there. I like this movie. I would say that I'd probably give it like a 7.5 tops, though, because I love everything that it sets up and leads into. I like a lot of the ideas that it's built on, but a lot of the execution in, like, you know, the exposition of the plot, the characterization, a lot of it is kind of, it suffers a bit. So all of that brings it down a bit. I might have matched Noah in his rating of this one, but it is not as fun a watch as later Friday movies turn out to be, so I'm going to say 7.5 is about where it ought to sit.
That makes sense.
Fair enough. I can respect it.
I disagree with your number greatly, obviously, but
That's fair.
you know, at least it's not a 9.
The bar is so low.
Not low enough.
Yeah.
All right, so what? Content warning, scary rating, what comes first?
Trigger warnings first.
Yeah. So outside of an actual real-life snake
Yeah, there is
being
an
killed on
actual
screen,
snake that gets its head chopped off. There is an awful lot of very graphic violence because this is a slasher, and the main feature of any slasher is, of course, the kills. The kills in this movie are pretty darn graphic because the effects are done by Tom Savini. It's our first Tom Savini
love
movie on
Tom
this podcast.
Savini.
Noah's
Noah.
notes say Tom Savini, heart.
That's right. That's it. I can talk a little bit more about him after the content warning is done. But yeah, the violence is very, very graphic. If you have a problem with really realistic kills and blood and decapitations and such, maybe watch out for that.
But it
Yeah,
is
the
like
first-
80s special effects. So
It is. It's
can
the
still
best
kind of,
special
like,
effects that the
tell it's
80s
fake.
had, but it is still very 80s.
yeah.
See, even because I've got a copy on Blu-ray. I gave you guys my DVD copy because that's all I had at the time.
How dare you?
It's the base
But we
format.
watched it on. It is the superior default
It's
format.
the base format. You gotta have that.
But yeah, we watched it on Blu-ray, and I gotta say,
It holds
the
up,
kills held up a lot more than I thought they would. Because obviously, your big issue is this movie was filmed to be a square movie and not a widescreen movie. But it was filmed in widescreen. So if you're watching the widescreen, you can find like light blockers that like pop up on little
just
corners of
stuff
your
that isn't supposed to
screen,
be
and
on
like
frame.
it's poorly framed, things like that.
Oh.
But
What movie were we watching where like there was
Alton Brown.
legitimately the whole killer in frame when he wasn't supposed to be?
That was
Was
Alton
it
Brown,
Friday
yeah.
3?
it might have been Friday 3.
Yeah, like you could see Jason like a good 10 seconds before you were supposed to.
That's what it felt like, at least.
I mean, that's okay. He's the
But yeah,
reason you
Alton
watch
Brown
those
also
movies
had
anyway,
that.
So.
We were watching
Yeah.
Good Eats Reloaded.
Oh yeah, Good Eats Reloaded, and he talked about the fact that it was all filmed in widescreen and then cut to full screen, and then he pointed out a bunch of stuff you can see in the widescreen version that you're not supposed to.
That's hilarious.
And I love that. I love that so much.
Nice.
And yeah, you can definitely do that with all of the Friday movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the effects hold up, and I have trivia about one of the effects. I think I might have said it before somewhere. I've definitely talked about it somewhere in the past. I just don't know where.
We will get to it.
Probably on your other
will.
podcast.
Maybe, I don't know. So yeah, I think that's it for content warnings, though, right?
Some
All right.
sex, some boobs. You see Kevin
there's
Bacon's
some
ass
butt.
get squeezed a little. I think they might
Yeah,
have
that's
used a
an
double
important
for
one.
it though, because it's shot in a really weird way. I think that might have been somebody else's butt. And if that's
Kevin
the
Bacon's
case, I want to
butt.
know why they didn't find a man with a better butt than that, because it was
Yeah, the
it was
bacon
flat.
booty is iconic.
Oh, the Kevin Bacon butt double conspiracy is not something I expected, but I am here for it.
See,
excited
like
for it.
the flatness makes me think that it must have been actually Kevin Bacon's butt, but the way that it's shot looks like they're using a
Maybe.
double and they don't want you to
I would
notice. It's weird.
I would like to present to the jury my theory, which is that Kevin Bacon's ass was just too fat for the screen.
Got that
Kevin
JFK
Bacon's
booty.
Kevin Bacon's ass was just too juicy for this movie, and they couldn't show it
His
The
without
movie was
ass
losing
already
cheeks
their
were
rated
R
R.
rating.
His ass cheeks were just too thick that whenever they slapped it, the clap of his ass cheeks ruined the audio. So they had to bring somebody new in.
I buy that.
Anyway, I think that's all of our content warnings.
They could have
All
just
right,
shot it with the
Emma,
mics off.
scary
and
rating.
scale?
It is time for Emma's scary rating featuring me, Emma. I did not like this movie. I did not consider it to be a good movie. It did not make me jump at any point,
Oh.
and I was not freaked out at any point, nor does the subject matter freak me out much.
Okay.
However, considering Biden won today, I'm going to give it 10 out of 10 scary.
Okay.
You know what?
Just because I'm feeling generous.
Yeah, you know what? I respect how generous you're feeling, and I will accept your 10 out of 10 scary for a movie that you don't even think is a 4.
Yeah.
You didn't
I
think it was
appreciate it.
scary at all.
No, not at all.
Wow. Okay. I was watching this with my wife Becca, and she was terrified the whole time. She was very freaked out.
Wait,
by it.
really?
That's wild.
Friday the 13th?
She's not used to watching horror movies. She doesn't like
Yeah.
them. She wanted to see it because she wanted to finally understand the whole thing with Jason and why we love him so much. And
Oh, what a bad movie
this
to
is a
pick.
bad movie.
unfortunately, he's not in this movie. So
The boy ain't even in it.
he's not.
Incorrect. He's there
I
for
was-
3 seconds,
I
Emma.
was talking to my boss about the big 3 slashers, which we are moving through right now, and he stated correctly that he thinks that Nightmare on Elm Street is the only one that actually is scary, and I agree with him a little bit on that.
I'm excited
I've
for
seen
that
Nightmare
one,
on
then.
Elm Street.
So here's
I
the
cannot
thing,
get behind
like,
that.
oh no. So none of the Friday the 13th movies are really all that scary because the whole time you're watching Jason and you're kind of rooting for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once Friday 3 goes past, you're just like, yeah, I like
I
this
was gonna
guy.
say,
Look at
in
this good
Friday
hockey
Yeah,
3,
this
mask
guy's
boy.
cool.
When he killed my punk wife, like, I was disappointed. I knew he
Sure.
would because, punks stand for everything that he's against. All the, sex, drugs, and alcohol. So
Yep.
I get it.
He
but
hates that.
he do be hating that. Yeah. Anyway, so how do we want to roll into this? Do we want to do a whole plot thing?
I was
and
gonna
then-
do that, yeah.
Let's do that.
All right,
Do
so
that, then fun
actually,
facts.
before I get into the spoiler synopsis, I'm gonna say I mentioned a minute ago that the real feature of slashers is not any character, certainly not the protagonist. It's mostly the kills.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we cover slashers, we should talk about our favorite kill in the movie. So retroactively, in Halloween, I think my favorite kill in Halloween was actually the dog. I think that was the most effective scene where we saw
No.
Michael doing his thing.
The dog?
That was a good noise.
Yeah, when he killed the dog. I actually felt
could
like
you
that
be
was
so
one of the more effective scenes
heartless?
in that movie.
I can't pick that as my favorite because it wasn't fun.
No, it wasn't, but it made me
I'm
actually
here-
kind of scared of Michael. You know?
See, I'm here. Okay, I get that. I'm here to have fun though, which means my favorite kill was what's his name who went down to get beer and
Yeah.
got pinned to the wall.
Yeah.
Um,
Michael did
not
like,
that
the
kill,
head tilt.
but the follow-up kill where Michael came upstairs wearing glasses
with
and the ghost
and the
sheet.
ghost sheet. Yeah, that was definitely my favorite too.
Like, it was not fun because that girl was just naked and getting killed, but it was really funny
It was
because Michael came up in that
extremely
sheet.
funny. Like, why did he do that?
To
the
disguise
lulz.
himself.
I did it for the lulz. We should watch Smiley on this podcast.
Oh God,
what
I've
that
seen
is.
like, I won't get into it. I've seen like pictures of that, and it just like creeps me out. I don't like it.
I don't know
It's
what
so
that
bad.
is.
Shane Dawson and Toby Turner are both in it, and I hate both
we're
of them.
not watching that.
I have no idea who those people are, but
Good.
I would say my favorite Michael kill was like the guy going down for beer,
Yeah.
and then like the head tilt, because the head tilt
The hell
is
tilt, yeah.
iconic.
Iconic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, Michael has tilted his head after a kill in the movie every single movie because of that scene.
It tracked
Yeah.
well. Okay,
Yeah.
so
It tracked very well.
after the spoiler synopsis, we're all going to talk about our favorite kills in this movie. So,
Sounds good.
the spoilerful synopsis is that in 1957, a young boy drowned at Camp Blood. I don't remember the real name of the camp. It became known as Camp Blood after that. And the following year, in 1958, 2 camp counselors were killed while they were attempting to make whoopee.
Hold on, I'm
The
The
sorry.
camp
I can't
closed
get
for
over the
20
fact.
years. What?
Wait, you need to rewind real quick because Nina thinks that you
I-
forgot the name for Camp Crystal Lake.
I cannot
Yeah.
believe that I forgot the
I
name
was
of
like,
Camp
wait.
Crystal Lake.
You really
'Cause
did.
I was like,
then.
even
I
I
was
know
like,
that
you
name.
You can't
I-
have forgotten that.
All I
was
could
willing to
think
give
of
you
was the
benefit
name
of
of the
doubt.
camp from Sleepaway Camp, and I have absolutely no idea why.
Oh my god. Okay.
Camp
all right.
Crystal Lake, later known as
We can
Camp
keep
Blood,
going.
closed for 20 years after a series of deaths, and the movie picks up where some guy is trying to reopen it. He's spent a ton of money and effort fixing the place up. He brings people in
Yeah.
to get it started again, and then eventually, over the course of the movie, it is revealed in a clumsy and haphazard fashion that the person committing all of the murders was Jason's mom, Pamela Voorhees,
Going on.
who
Yeah,
was
that did all just kind of hit like a train, didn't it?
doing all the kills in revenge for the fact that the counselors who were on duty the day that her son drowned were all too busy going to Bone Town instead of watching out for her special little boy.
Yeah. Also, she was kind of crazy.
Also,
I
she
have a
was
couple-
kind of crazy. We do get that impression for sure.
I have a couple thoughts on Pamela Voorhees. I think my first one is that I don't even know if they were all doing the sex or if she is a camp staff who was older, just kind of knew that they were all having the sex. Because that's how camp staff was for me, was like nothing was ever happening, but the older staff members were always convinced something was happening. Secondarily, how I'm looking at the poster right now, and personally, I find the silhouette to have a pretty, like, it looks a little womanly to me.
Okay. Well, that's
So-
because it's her, I guess. So do you
Yeah,
want to hear
exactly.
what Betsy Palmer, the actress who played the character of Pam Voorhees, had to say about it?
I would love to.
Because I found this lengthy quote from her on how she put the character together, which is awesome.
Oh, neat.
However, firstly, I need you guys all to understand she did not want to be in this movie. She only took the job because she needed money to buy a new car, and she thought, upon reading the script, that the movie was bad enough, probably nobody was going to see it.
Oh my god, I love her.
And she has held the view continuously since then that the movie was, in her words, a piece of shit.
Yes.
And she has
There
no
it is,
idea
Yes,
Emma.
my
why
idol.
so many people liked it as much as they did. However,
There we
despite that,
go.
her performance in this movie is pretty fantastic, I think.
It is amazing, honestly. She was my favorite part.
really respect her as a professional because she went into this movie literally just saying this movie sucks and nobody should see it. And she still gave us a really good performance.
She was very convincing as her character.
Yeah, and
She
she
definitely
put
sold that fist fight scene at the end.
Yeah.
It was about as tense and brutal as the fist fight scene in The Last of Us 2.
Was that?
Which I'm
Oh,
sure
yeah.
Was it good?
you guys don't get that joke.
I get it.
Okay.
Is it
cool.
not good?
It's kind of stilted. It's all quick time events.
Oh. Sad. That is kind of the way that scene watches, though. It does kind of feel
It
like a
is. It
series
feels
of
like
quick time
everyone's-
things.
Hit X. Hit the circle.
You gotta,
Okay.
You gotta grab the machete. Grab the machete. Okay, so Betsy Palmer, when talking about how she developed the character of Mrs. Voorhees, said, "Being an actress who uses the Stanislavski Method, I always try to find details about my character. With Pamela, I began with a class ring that I remember reading in the script that she had worn. Starting with that, I traced Pamela back to my own high school days in the early 1940s. So it's 1944, it's a very conservative time, and Pamela has a steady boyfriend. They have sex, which is very bad, of course, and Pamela soon gets pregnant with Jason. The father takes off, and when Pamela tells her parents, they disown her because having babies out of wedlock isn't something good girls do. I think she took Jason and raised him the best she could, but he turned out to be a very strange boy. She took lots of odd jobs, and one of those jobs was as a cook at a summer camp. Then Jason drowns and her whole world collapses. What were the counselors doing instead of watching Jason? They were having sex, which is the way that she got into trouble. From that point on, Pamela became psychotic and puritanical in her attitudes, as she was determined to kill all of the immoral summer camp counselors."
She was
I
too good
love
for this
that.
movie.
She was absolutely
yeah, no
too good for
kidding.
this movie. She dove
Holy
that deep
crap.
into something that she thought was bad enough nobody should see it.
What other actor
Who?
in this movie knows what the Stanislavski Method is? Probably only Kevin Bacon, because he's iconic.
I don't even. He was a baby in this movie. I doubt he knew
was.
anything.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a
Kevin Bacon
stupid question here.
fresh
The
out the
Stanislavski
womb.
method is just standard method acting, right?
I think so.
Knowing your
Sounds
character's
like it.
backstory. Yeah, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, that was what she had to say about that. The writer of the movie said that in trying to put the character together, he wanted to take the idea of motherhood and kind of turn it on its head, so it's no longer a mother who would do anything to keep her child safe, but rather a mother who would do anything to avenge the death of her child. That was kind of what he was shooting for. Although what he was told in writing the movie was Sean S. Cunningham basically went to the dude and said, "I need you to write me a ripoff of Halloween."
It is a ripoff of Halloween.
It absolutely is, but I think what he did was he kind of looked at it and looked for themes
done
that were
better?
not present in it that he could kind of assign to it. Like if you watch Halloween and you kind of think, well, you know, what if Michael had a reason to be killing these girls? Maybe it's because they were, you know, they're all supposed to be like babysitting other people's kids, and they're all
That's
kind
exactly
of doing
what I
a
was
very bad
thinking.
job of it. So what if these girls were being killed as consequences for the fact that they were bad babysitters? Well, okay. But then you've got like a group of moms all killing one babysitter each? That doesn't work. So how do we expand that concept? It's a summer camp. You have a ton of summer camp counselors to murder. And if you just have a mom who is determined to get revenge on all of them, then there you go. That's your movie. And it actually has a motivation, whereas Michael kind of didn't.
That's why I like, and that like full stop is why I like this movie more than I liked Halloween, is
Yeah.
because it does kind of fit together as a coherent story with themes and motivations, whereas Halloween to me was just so random, and that's a big part of why I don't like slashers as a whole, is a lot of them don't have themes as much as like more I guess not more modern, but it just, to me, slashers feel like a exclusively 80s thing. So, but you get what I mean.
Right.
Does Cabin in the Woods count as a slasher?
Nah.
Not really.
No, because it's not got an
satirical,
actual
so-
like slasher. It's the slasher was an option, but they chose the cannibal zombies, so it's not a slasher. It was a hair away from being one.
It was so close.
It cracks me up that you've seen a takedown of the entire horror industry, but you hadn't watched much horror before you saw that one, Emma.
Yeah, but at the time of watching it, I still like knew about kind of horror archetypes and stuff.
So I guess
Right. It's a huge
the one
cultural
question I
thing,
would-
right? Everyone knows who Freddy is.
Yeah.
Everyone knows who Jason is.
You know,
It
I was
is.
really excited to get to know Jason in this movie.
Okay, so
And
someday we'll watch later ones, and I think that you'll like them more because Jason carries the movies.
he does.
I might.
So,
'cause my
here's the
biggest
thing.
fucking complaint about this movie
As soon as you
is the
said
boy
you didn't
ain't in
like
it.
this movie, I was like, oh, we probably should have warned her that Jason isn't in this one. The
Yeah,
first
that
time
might
that I
be
watched
better.
this movie, I was in the exact same boat. I specifically went and watched it because I wanted to see the movie that had Jason in it. So I was
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm going to see the hockey man do some kills. And then I waited the entire movie and I was like, where is the hockey man? The
Yep.
people are dying, but the hockey man is not here. What's he? It's his mom? What in the world?
It's
What
not
kind of
until
plot
the third
twist
movie
is
that
this?
he even gets the hockey mask.
I was gonna say, then you watch the second movie. And
What
he's
the
Yeah, then I
fuck?
watched the
Hockey
second
man.
movie and he just has a friggin' burlap sack over his face the entire
Yeah,
movie. And I'm
Baghead
like,
Jason.
What the
when
fuck
does
is
he
this
become
series?
a hockey man?
I had just done like a cool Halloween escape room that was based on like Camp Crystal Lake and Jason coming after ya, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna like get to watch this movie now and like see Jason in action, see what the big hype is all about, and fucking
Yeah.
nothing. Not even.
So
it.
I mean,
Okay,
for what
so
it's
I
worth,
see where you're coming from on not liking this movie now.
From
I'm
there are
sorry to
other
cut you
reasons I don't like this movie that I will get into, but that was a big one.
It is a very big one. I understand that, yeah.
yeah,
Also,
I
the
got nothing to
exposition
say.
is very clunky and bad.
Yes,
It is.
Yeah.
The exposition is really not good, and the villain as a character is not actually introduced until deep into the third act, and that's
Well,
very not okay.
That actually leads right into what I was about to talk about,
Okay.
which is when they first showed the Jeep scene where Pamela's driving Annie to camp.
Yeah.
At first, I thought they just didn't have a plan for the Jeep driver because he wasn't in any of
Yeah.
the shot reverse shots.
yeah. She's just like, wow, you can really tell they just didn't plan this shot out at all. And I'm just sitting there like, I know what's about to happen, but yeah, no, you're right. It doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good.
I legitimately thought it was a mistake. So yeah, they did introduce her, like, kind of. And one thing I will say that I really like about this movie is that you can tell what kind of a person the killer is by how everyone kind of reacts to her
Yeah.
before they get killed.
Nobody's
and I
scared
do
of her.
really like that.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing out in the rain right before they get killed?" Or
Steve Christie's my favorite, where he's just like, oh, hey, what are you doing here? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, about the killer not being introduced until the third act. I think this is a good time to talk a little bit about giallo movies because this movie has a lot of giallo influence to it, and giallo movies have always had a lot of influence on early slashers, and this one has a very distinct feel to it that seems an awful lot like a giallo movie. So giallo is essentially a detective kind of whodunit genre in Italian filmmaking. There are also some Spanish giallo movies, but it's primarily an Italian thing. And as far as I know, the most prominent maker of giallo movies is Dario Argento. He's the only one that I'm really familiar with. He's the guy who did the original Suspiria. He also has a absolute ton of other movies, even up to like 2 years ago, I think. He's still very active. It's confusing. He's very old now. But he also made movies like Phenomena, like Opera, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, a ton of them. And a very consistent thing in an awful lot of those movies is a lot of POV shots from the killer's perspective, so you don't know who it is. You got to try and figure it out. But a really consistent beat in an awful lot of his movies is you get to the third act and suddenly a character is introduced and they are the killer. And you have to just be like, well, I couldn't possibly have figured that out. You didn't give me any hints about it because this character didn't exist in the narrative up until now. So, like, that's not very nice of you there, Dario. But,
All right, I need to interrupt here. Nina,
I'm
just
almost
passed
done.
me
I
a
actually
note.
have something to say to what Jeff's saying.
But I'm almost
so let Jeff
done.
finish.
Let me
Okay,
finish.
And then I'll rat out Nina.
I'm not saying that the existence of that trope, I guess, makes it okay for this movie to do its exposition the way that it does. I think it definitely is to its detriment. I think it's a bad thing that they did. But there is a pre-established what is the word I'm looking for here?
I understand.
There's a
I understand
precedent
what you're
to
saying.
it, you know, like
Yeah.
there are other movies that were already doing this. So
And yeah, no, so it's at least a little understandable. And
Yeah.
I want to add that my favorite mystery writer and maybe one of the best mystery writers of all time, Agatha Christie, one of her most famous plays does the same freaking thing. Not to spoil the Mousetrap for anyone, but that
you didn't
does
have to
freaking
say the
happen.
title. It wouldn't have been a spoiler at all.
Well, you can bleep it out. But yeah, no, that does happen in like in other mysteries. Like not in all of her stuff, but in like a couple of them.
Yeah.
The character isn't there. The character gets introduced.
And then moments
then
later,
it's
they're
like,
the killer.
and
you
then
get a
moments
bunch
later,
of
it's like
haphazard explanation and
exactly. It's like, well, you see, I was actually here the whole time, and you just didn't notice me. And it's like.
yeah.
You're like sitting there in the audience trying desperately to remember if you have actually like seen him at any point in the play before this.
Yeah, it feels like
So-
watching Lost, and it's just like, well,
Yeah.
come on now. I can tell you
Were
guys have
there
just been
hints?
making this up for the last 3 years.
Were-
Can you
were
not
there
do
hints?
this?
And they're all yelling at you that there were hints all along.
But there weren't.
Versus in Friday the 13th, like I said, the reactions that people have and the fact that like I think they did talk about the boy being drowned and everything, so it's like you know that that's kind of going to come into play. I really, really wish that there would have been more. This is actually something I was thinking about, is I thought it would have been really cool if Pamela had been introduced earlier on in the movie.
Yes.
As someone in maybe the diner lobbying against like the camp being opened up.
Yeah,
Like,
and if we had a couple
if
of
you had
scenes
just
where
seen
she was
her-
talking to Steve and trying to talk him out of it or something, you know? Mm-hmm. Or maybe if we didn't have the Crazy Ralph character and instead Mrs. Voorhees was there trying to be supportive but also trying to get everyone to go home.
Like, if she had
You know?
tried to get Annie to quit the way that the trucker had, because Annie had her job, and Annie seems really sweet, it would have made really a lot of sense to me that even Mrs. Voorhees would have been like, hey, I don't really want to do anything, so can you just
Yeah.
go home? I don't want to kill you. You remind me a lot of myself. Go home. I would have loved that.
I was gonna say, it would have been a really nice thing to have her, like, talk to her because they had the same job at camp.
Yeah.
There's, like, a lot of cool, like, things you can, I don't know, do with that.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that I wish we could have seen in the Friday the 13th reboot in 2009, but instead we just
See,
got a
that's what I
really
was hoping
bad
for.
movie.
That sucks, because I would have. I
would've
was
loved
telling
that.
Noah. When I told Noah I would have loved to see like a modern version of this movie, I was specifically thinking of leading more Mrs. Voorhees into the earlier plot.
Yes.
And
Nope.
that's
It
what I
would've been
would
good.
have loved, is to make it into actually like a compelling plot and bring all of that character development that Betsy Palmer did into the
Yes.
story a little more.
But here's the thing. In the 2009 reboot, it focuses strictly on Jason. The movie is the Jason Show, all Jason, all the time. We're here for Jason and Jason only.
Well, except that it's not. He's barely on screen for most of the frickin' movie. It's all focused
Yeah,
on
but
all
he's
the protagonist characters that you just hate the whole time.
Yeah.
You don't get
I
any
hate
of the
the
stuff that
protagonist in this
attracts you to a
movie,
Friday
too.
the 13th movie at all.
You got a Padalecki in that one.
Yeah,
I
and
would
who
have really
wants that?
enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
I will say one other thing for this movie, speaking of unlikable protagonists, is that it did make me remember working at camp and remember the people that I worked with at camp, and a lot of the characters reminded me of those people, and it kind of made me miss that before launching into, like, all of them, like, getting killed and stuff. So
personal favorite was I thought we had 2 weeks, when Steve starts having him work right away.
Yeah, it's like, what did you think you were showing up to do 2 weeks early, buddy? Like,
we always had 2 weeks of training, quote unquote, where we chopped wood and cleaned out the cabins and painted over notes that people wrote the year before.
Oh, and speaking of chopping wood, the first time that we see Steve Christie, as everyone rolls up, the way he's like chopping at that stump in a way that nobody would ever chop at a stump. He couldn't possibly have been getting anything done there. Come on now.
I love how that lever that he pried it out of the ground with wasn't braced on anything. It was just in dirt. And he's like, all right, you need to pull here. All right, good job, everyone. We got that stump out. Now you do this, you do this, you do this.
Yeah.
Also, this is another little thread now that we're talking about that scene. The moment that Alice walked out of the cabin, I was like, she is either going to be gay-coded or Steve's wife. And I was right. She is gay-coded.
Yeah.
She is a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
We were watching, and Nina's like, we were talking about how, like, Lori feels a little gay-coded, but...
because of her, like, it seems like she almost has a crush on her friend who's trying to get her to go out with boys.
Mm-hmm. But Alice is just, like, defo gay-coded. Because you get the vibe that she slept with Steve, but she wasn't really digging it.
She slept with Steve and she didn't dig it so
really
hard she almost went home.
And then, well, not only that, but then later when they play Strip Monopoly, firstly, Monopoly.
The rules of that game are a little bit odd, seems like.
You landed on Baltic Avenue,
it seems
give me a
like
shoe.
when they're playing that game, both of the girls are super into each other, and that dude is just there.
Yeah.
No, when she's like, I don't want to play a board game, and the girl's like, oh, but what if it was Strip Monopoly? And Alice is like, I'm in.
Oh, yeah, she's immediately into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's play Monopoly. Well, no, it's Strip Monopoly. We'll say no more.
Speaking of stripping, we forgot to talk about our favorite kills of the movie.
Oh, we have not gotten to that. We kind of rolled over it, didn't we? Yeah.
I'll go last because my favorite kill ties into one of my favorite trivia bits.
Okay, cool.
I think my favorite kill, and this is probably the one part of the movie that I liked, was Annie's kill at the beginning. Because up to that point, I was like, okay, this character is very obviously like the main character, blah, 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 blah.
It seems like that, right?
She dies. And it's very much kind of like the Ned Stark death in season 1 of Game of Thrones, where you're like, oh, okay, I don't know who's going to live, who's going to die. And very much from that point, with the rest of the cast, I was like, I really don't know who's going to survive.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Okay,
Nice.
So I see how it is. Emma can spoil season 1 of Game of Thrones, but when I spoil a play from the 1950s, I get scolded for it.
Listen, if it helps you feel better, I'm definitely not gonna bleep out like what show it is.
Anyway, my favorite kill was when Alice kills Mrs. Voorhees.
It's real good, isn't it? It feels like it's kind of out of nowhere. Like the fight's going in
like
a normal
her
direction
hands.
at first, and
Her
then suddenly
hands
it's
are
just
like-
like boom.
I
did love that. It made Alice so cool and brutal
Yeah.
to me. I love stuff
Well,
like
and just
that.
that,
See,
like,
that's
she
really
doesn't do
cool.
any of the, like, the Laurie Strode thing where she gets a weapon and she's like, you'd better stay back. No, she goes right for
She's
it
like,
because
okay,
she
I
knows
got
the
it.
situation she's in.
Exactly.
It's
It
fantastic.
feels like she's defending herself from someone who's trying to kill her.
Yeah.
I just wish that they had gotten a better hand double for Betsy Palmer,
Betsy
because those are man hands. They're big, veiny, hairy man hands. And it's just like, that's fine.
So those hands
like,
are
those look
the
like
hands
Steve's
of
hands.
one of Tom Savini's assistants. It was just whoever he had on hand at the time. He was like, yeah, why don't you just...
On hand.
Ah! Yeah, apparently he was just like, I don't know, whoever's around, why don't you just put on this sweater and I'm going to put this thing on your head, and that was that.
I mean, it worked. I thought narratively it was super fun, and I liked the effects of like the head getting chopped off.
It looks
It
good.
was super neat.
What's yours, Jeff?
I'm betting mine is the same as yours. It's the arrow through the throat after Kevin Bacon finishes laying down his sausage and he has himself a smonk. And he gets punished for it immediately, as anyone who utilizes marijuana ought to, by the way.
Yes.
Don't do drugs, kid. Doing weed is
drugs,
illegal and it's
Pamela
wrong.
Voorhees will shove an arrow through the back of your neck.
Well, it's becoming illegal in less and less places.
Oh,
But
well,
if you
then
do
you're
it
one of
in
those
bed,
places.
the weed goblins are still gonna stab you.
The weed goblins, is that what you call stoners now?
No, the
No,
weed
because
goblins
they
are the
got
ones
stabbed by
that
the weed
kill you
goblins.
after you do the smonk.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll pick a different favorite kill because I had two that were tied. And if you're going to do that one,
I'm doing that one.
you know the trivia for that kill, right?
I do. Those are Tom Savini's hands reaching up from under the bed.
That is not the trivia.
That's not the trivia? The
No,
real
the
trivia is that they killed Kevin Bacon in actuality for that kill in this movie. And the Kevin
there's
Bacon that we've had for the rest of his career has been a clone.
It's been Ethan Hawke.
It's been
been
Ethan
Who I always
Hawke
get
the
mixed
whole
up-
time.
Who I always mix up with Kevin Bacon for some reason.
Okay,
The
so
real
I'm
trivia
gonna,
was the friends we made along the way.
I'll drop the trivia for that one, and then I'll say my favorite. The trivia is that they had a blood pump that broke as they
that's
hit
right.
action. And because this film was dirt cheap and they didn't have that kind of money to reshoot and fix that pump,
Yeah.
Tom Savini blew blood through the pipe with his mouth.
With his mouth, that's
and
right.
that's
I
why
forgot
it gets
about
all bubbly and it sprays up in like whoop, whoop, and stuff like that.
that. And you know what?
I guess
That winds
that's
up
also
making
part
it
of why
look
he was
more
under the
real,
bed.
actually.
It did make it look more real. But yeah, he and his assistants were down there blowing blood through a tube. So maybe if it was his hands, then it probably wasn't him blowing it through. But like that's what happened is the pump broke and they're like, well, let's do it.
Like, well, we gotta do it anyway. The show must go
Since you
on.
mentioned hands, can I say a quick thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can say a long thing.
What was up with... Well, I don't want to take away Noah's time to talk about his favorite kill. But at the end, when Mrs. Voorhees dies, why did they choose... Because, like, she gets her head chopped off or something.
Yeah.
And then, like, it shows hands, like, reaching up to the head as if she's, like, feeling for the fact that she lost her head. But the hands are very big and hairy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like, why did they do that?
Like, it
I
was-
get it. I get that he had the people that were on hand do it. I get it. But man,
But it's such a terrible and obvious decision.
It is.
And I also love how long it goes on because like
oh,
the
it's
whole,
way too long.
It's the whole chicken with its head cut off kind of thing where like yes, your nerves still do work a little while after your head's gone, but that long? No one correct me on this. I don't want to see any YouTube comments. I don't want to see anyone telling me how long a body will move after the head's chopped off. It's too long.
Okay, so here's the thing about that, right? I'm not going to say anything about the length of time. I just think it was unnecessary for them to have the hands reaching up like that. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't have to have that at all. They could have just shown the decapitation and let it sit without trying to make it more dramatic? Is that what the
It looked
hands were
silly was
for?
the
I
thing.
think
I
I
guess
think
so.
that
But, like-
actually does help it if we're being honest. I think that's good for it is how overly dramatic the scene is, but it also definitely goes on for too long.
Yeah. Well, and
cut
part
that
of
scene
it
in
going on
half
for too
and
long
it's
is the
fine.
fact that they show it in slow motion because Tom Savini was so confident in how good the effect looked,
Yeah,
which
I mean-
it does look pretty good.
It looks pretty good.
Yeah, but
for
still.
the 80s.
All right, here's my favorite kill.
Yeah.
Since you stole mine, here's my runner-up. When Marcy gets an axe to her face.
It's a good one.
Yeah. That one, the axe looks really good. It's very sudden. She's like, ah! And then gets hit, and then instead of any, like, bones about it, the body immediately drops down into frame with a big ol' axe right in the face.
Yeah.
Looks really good.
It looks real good. And
It
that
was
is a kill
fun.
that I consistently forget about in this movie.
Ooh. That's a kill to forget about. because that's gonna punch you in the face every time.
It's fantastic, isn't it? I'm always watching out for like the stab through the throat, the decapitation, that kind of thing, but I always forget about that axe to the face. It's a good one.
Sure.
Strong agree.
Emma, let's talk a little bit more about your problems with this movie.
Yes, I was
I would
just
love to
about
hear
to
it.
ask
Yes.
if
Let's
we could
get
talk
into
about my problems with this movie. First of all, as we have mentioned, the boy ain't in it, and that's real frustrating and sad for me. And except, as Noah kind of hinted at, for like 3 seconds at the end, out of nowhere, Mermaid Jason bursts out of the water, grabbing the survivor and pulling her under. But then she's fine. She's in a hospital.
Yeah.
And that just kind of felt very much unnecessary and weird.
It was. It wasn't in
mean,
the original script.
Yeah,
The original
get that they're,
script
like,
was
wanting
just
to
going to be
hint
her
of, like,
drifting on the lake, but then Tom Savini, it was his idea actually. He had just seen Carrie, and Carrie has a
that
little
tracks.
stinger at the end of it to try and scare you. And he basically was just thinking we should try and do something like that to, just get people to jump one more time.
Yeah. And I get it. And also kind of hints of like, oh, there's more going on. Maybe the mom wasn't like totally crazy. Maybe there was like some sort of influence over her.
Yeah.
And it kind of like opens up things for like another movie. But it's still dumb.
It is.
And it was just kind of very much out of nowhere and unnecessary.
Pretty much. I loved the music in that scene though.
I don't remember the music in that scene.
Because it was
but-
so loud.
It was
Yeah.
too loud, but I like the way that it was put together, the way it's got that just like
That's fair.
ethereal, dreamy feel to it,
Mm-hmm. Especially with how you could see the cops on the shore that were yelling out to her,
Yeah.
but you couldn't hear them.
Yeah.
And all that serves to drive home the fact that what we see in that scene isn't what actually happened, of course.
Yeah.
Or is it? Because
It's
Jason
not.
is fucking around.
But he doesn't look like that. He's
No,
a big buff
not-
dude.
He is a big buff dude, but his face, that's the only difference, really. Everything else looks about the same.
Yeah,
It just
debatable. But anyway.
reeks of the whole, they didn't think that through, but I love it
Absolutely.
anyway, kind of a thing.
Absolutely, they didn't think that through now.
Yeah. Other than that, I hated. So we've talked before about how I have a hard time with older movies, and so I try to give them a little bit more grace.
Uh-huh.
But the beginning of this movie is so fucking terrible. It set the tone off immediately of like, I hate this movie.
Yeah.
So I
Like
gotta be
literally
honest.
10 minutes into watching this movie, I like messaged in the Discord. I was like, I hate this fucking movie already.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
man, that's how far you were in when you sent that?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Oh
we
my
watched the
God.
beginning, and Nina and I both agreed this is the exact same intro as Halloween, but it's just a little better.
You thought it was better?
Halloween's intro was just like, oh, there's man-sized baby Jason walking
Look-
through the house.
Michael.
I'm sorry, baby Michael.
And he looks
walking
at his
through the
hand
house.
while he's stabbing them, and the
I
sex
mean-
takes 2 seconds, and
It
there's
Yes,
a lot
does
of
take
problems.
only 2
it's
seconds.
corny.
Yeah, we neglected to mention that in the last episode. That boy busted so fast and then got his
I mean, he
clothes
was in
all the
high
way back
school.
on so quickly.
I don't know that he got his clothes all the way off, Jeff.
I don't know. He's like putting his shirt back on as he comes down the stairs.
Let me talk about why the intro for Friday the 13th is way worse
Oh,
than
wait,
Halloween.
no. The reason it was better is because we didn't get that extended shot of Jason, or of Michael, just like, Michael!
Yeah,
then
it
you
would have
just
been
see
better
that.
if at the end everybody was like, Pamela, what's going on here?
So yeah, that's my whole thing of why I think it's better.
So, okay. They just had really weird directing and acting choices in the beginning that are
Yeah.
not consistent with the rest of the movie. And
Well, that
because
was a
of
Christian
that,
camp in the 50s, you see.
well, because of that, I will admit that because of the beginning, I discounted the rest of the movie heavily in my mind.
I think that's
And so,
So
I think like the middle part of the movie is okay.
I did read something about the casting of the people in that beginning segment. And apparently it was just a couple of people who were, just on hand whenever, or like friends of people that Sean Cunningham knew or something. And he basically was just like, yeah, why not? And that was the casting process for those characters. So that's why they suck.
It's like they were all awful.
But at the same time, the director decided to do this cute little thing where he felt like everybody needed their own like solo shot when they were talking. And so during conversations, it would just keep flipping between each character as they were talking. And there was this awkward pause at the end of each like little segment where a actor was saying the line, and at the beginning of when the next person was saying their line and the camera flipped to them. And so it was just very jarringly awkward, like the conversations that were happening on screen, and it felt completely unnatural.
It's kind
as well as the dialogue and delivery of the lines themselves, even for Annie, who I would hope is a little more of an actress maybe, but even for her, it was just really like all the lines were just very, very weirdly delivered.
Yeah.
And then there was the crazy guy who was really weird.
He's bad. Crazy Ralph is just not good.
Yeah,
he shouldn't even be there.
He didn't need to be present, and actually the director has stated since that he regrets putting him in.
I feel like he's supposed to be like a red herring.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I didn't even for 1 second think that he could be the killer.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You're supposed to. He was put in with the intent being that he is kind of a distraction, and you're supposed to sort of think that he might have been the killer, but we get literally 2 scenes with him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem very capable of anything in either of those scenes. He just seems like an ineffectual drunk.
Yeah.
Does he die? I don't even remember.
He dies in the next movie. Spoilers.
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
We're all doing it.
Also, I think I'm just not a huge fan of like first-person POV kills or scenes. I just don't think they're handled very well.
A lot of the ones in this particular movie are not particularly well done. Like, especially in the first scene. Like, we should be seeing a hand with a knife at the least. And we kind of just see nothing for most of them. So that's a little lame. It's a little cheap.
So, like, the arrow through the throat of Kevin Bacon, I feel like that was a good kill because, like, you actually, like, see it.
You get to see things,
but everything else, it just felt really bad and corny and cheap, and I didn't like it.
I can relate to all of that, honestly.
And I didn't like any of the characters. Like, they didn't matter.
I liked Alice. I mean, I knew she's clearly supposed to be like, because this whole movie is a Halloween ripoff. She's clearly supposed to be Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
But I still liked her a lot. Like, as a character, I knew she was Final Girl. I knew that she was gonna live, and because of that, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll jive with this. But none of the other characters had. None of the characters in Halloween. This is another reason that I do not like slashers. Is I feel like the protagonists. Obviously, we're supposed to focus on the killer, but I feel like the protagonists are just so unlikable.
Absolutely.
And so shallow.
You're supposed to be happy when they die. Is the point?
But it doesn't make me happy when they die. It just makes me be like, I could have watched The Thing, where I care about the people, but I'm still kind of jazzed about the effects when they die.
It's not that I didn't like the characters, and it's not like that I liked them. It's just that they were so plain, kind of, that I didn't care about them at all.
I didn't even remember the 2 brunettes' names, like the ones other than Annie. Like, they're Marcy and Brenda or something like that, and I don't know which is which.
The only names I remember are Annie, and that's because you guys said it earlier, and I picked up on it because I knew I wanted to talk about her. Mm-hmm. And Mrs. Voorhees, because I know Jason's last name is Voorhees, but I don't actually remember her first name.
Right.
Someone
Pamela.
called him Jason Myers at work the other day, and I wanted to
holy shit.
Oh no.
But that was why I was upset when Nina, you were like, I got to draw or like do a thing for Jason's 40th birthday. And I was like, funny, because he's not even in this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because it does like happen on his birthday. Like his birthday is the 13th.
Yeah.
June 13th.
June 13th.
I did appreciate watching this movie though, because I was running a game for a YouTube channel I'm a part of, where it's called Camp Murder, and it's like a spoof of like kids going to a summer camp to learn how to be like new slasher villains.
Oh, well, then you'd have to have seen this one to like...
Yeah, and so I was glad to have seen Halloween in this before I ran that.
Yeah,
That's very important.
Yeah, but other than that...
I'm really interested if we ever do decide to watch Sleepaway Camp to see your, like, comparison to this one. But I also think Sleepaway Camp shouldn't come for a good while yet.
Yeah.
You don't think so?
Also, I just remembered another thing. Excuse me, I apologize. Noah, how can you complain about the kills in Halloween being, like, paced out and, like, not satisfying when the kills in this movie start, like, 15 minutes in and, like, barely happen, like, throughout the movie, and when they do, they're either incredibly quick or they don't even happen on screen.
That's a thing that I forgot about.
Because this movie is 80 minutes long. And Halloween wasn't. Well, actually, let me.
Halloween is 10 minutes longer.
Halloween is an hour and 40 minutes. This movie is an hour and
30.
It's like 30 minutes.
Oh
It's
my
10
gosh,
minutes
it is an
longer.
hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Which is
Okay,
weird
I
because
definitely
this
thought
movie
it was
does a
shorter.
lot of things in the editing that suggest that they were trying really, really hard to pad the runtime.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of padding in this movie, which makes me think that it's a shorter movie than it is.
It is.
But this movie
'Cause not a lot happens.
This movie flows quickly. Halloween slogs sometimes.
Halloween
has I'm never going to say it doesn't have a better story. Right? Like the story bones of Halloween are almost the same as this, but like they develop their side characters really nicely. You actually get a sense of everybody.
Yeah.
The fact that Jason has no drive and ambition, or oh my gosh, the fact that Michael has no drive and ambition versus Pamela, that's a biggie, right? But like, they're pretty much the same thing. But this movie just flows better, and it doesn't feel as weird as a lot of the scenes in Halloween always feel.
Yeah.
Halloween beats this movie in soundtrack. It beats this movie in soundtrack. It beats this movie in the
I
sense
feel
that
like
there is no Dr.
Did you guys
Loomis.
hear his face go blank?
yeah.
He muted too
Just-
for me, so the Discord has been messing up. So
No, I just stopped. No, there's no Dr. Loomis in Friday the 13th. I would hazard a guess that old Ralph is their stand-in for Loomis.
Kind of, yeah, I guess.
a little bit.
And Ralph just sucks. The
He
fact
does.
that that man made it into 2 of the movies, maybe even 3 of them,
Not
is
3.
criminal. Not 3 of them?
No, he definitely.
No, there
dies
was a
in the second
Ralph
one.
stand-in in 3. There was
Well,
that
yeah.
crazy old dude with
There's
the
a
eyeball.
different version of the character. It's not the same dude though.
I think Halloween is better than this movie in every way, except for this movie not really having a clear main character that you know is going to be the survivor.
That's fair.
Okay.
I think this movie is better solely in the fact that I like Pamela as a killer better than I liked Michael. And I don't know, I feel like that's going to be a hot take because she doesn't ever show up again apart from being like ahead. Oh, or in the zombie in the lake in that one part. But the thing is, I really liked her motivations. I really liked how she was portrayed. She was my favorite part of the movie. Everything else kind of sucked. And but simply because I could root for Pam more than I could for Michael, that's why this movie ranked higher for me.
Because you can actually relate to her, is the
Yeah.
biggest thing. She is
Yeah,
an
like-
actual character, whereas Michael just kind of isn't.
Yeah, like, and it would have been so easy to give Michael a little bit of character. Like, all that they had to do was have him hate Loomis so much that he just kills everyone Loomis interacts with.
Yes.
And that would have been it.
I would have loved that. Like, Loomis thought he was going to his hometown, but instead Michael was just stalking Loomis the whole time.
Exactly.
That would've
like,
been cool.
Loomis, that would have been really cool for Loomis, too, to, like, have him realize that literally he created this monster that he thinks he's been preventing this whole time.
Yeah.
But I'm just a better writer, so I'm gonna sit back.
Oof.
I don't know. I like motivated killers. I like there being a little more to it just than, oh, he's crazy, you know?
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about why I liked this one better. But I think Halloween, like, technically, probably better.
Yeah, I think
If you
you
say
like
so.
this one better because, like, as you said during the Halloween movie, you like to, like, you don't like slashers as much because you like to sink your teeth into things a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And a enemy having a motivation gives you something to sink it into.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, all the other elements of a slasher, I don't dislike, but I like them more when I have something to engage with, like, on a personal level.
Yeah,
That's why I
that
like
makes sense.
like a lot of movies, but like I love special effects, so I love watching the kills, but I don't want to go through an hour of like teens jumping in the water to get half an hour of like suspense and kills.
Fair.
Yeah, not even half an hour.
Yeah, 15 minutes tops.
Yes.
I want to flip through my notes real quick, just because
I love your notes, and I want to do a section. I kind of feel like I want to read out some of Noah's notes really quick.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we obviously have Tom Savini heart emoji.
Yeah.
You have a quote from Nina, which is, yes, sex eyes while you sing hymns.
That's how I remember camp. That was what that's what I said. This one just says, mustache man.
Back to the singing hymns for a second. I want to point out this movie has some of the best and also worst fake guitar playing I have ever witnessed in a movie. Because in that scene and in the scene where that dude is playing it by the fire, it is the most blatantly fake thing you have ever seen. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous.
But then Annie picks it
But
up,
then
and they just
Alice,
have her hit
Alice
some
picks
notes.
it up,
Alice,
and
I'm sorry, yeah.
and she just hits
She
a
just-
couple of open strings, and it sucks. And it's obviously real. Like,
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, yeah, mustache man is a favorite. Do love that one. Front and center butt.
yeah. That would be when Kevin Bacon's pancakes were on screen, right?
No, that was
That's
his
another
girl.
good one. Can I come check the lights? Ooh woo.
I didn't get that line where she's just like, "Can I come with you to check the lights?" And it's just like, why not?
Oh God. I think we only have a couple more. I really love how little gas lamps work. I don't know why, but it seems so freaking neat.
Oh yeah, gas lamps are cool though. Like, you got those little mesh like gauze nets that sit over it, and then you light them on fire and pump gas on them, and they're just like, "We'll glow," and that's it. It's great.
Okay, last one. I don't actually know the context for this, but it just says the window.
Oh yeah, that's when we finally got our.
No, it's
throws
a
in.
body gets thrown in through a window. That happens in every Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah, including Jason Goes to Space.
Including
wow.
Jason Goes to Space.
Mm-hmm.
In space, nobody can get thrown out of a window, only in.
space.
Anyway, that's all of the ones that I wanted to touch on. I think
See, I think a much better one is just Alice knocks out a window. Bill, careful. When they were breaking into the office. But no, there were a couple things. The truck audio in the beginning,
Weird.
when the man's given Annie a ride.
Annie.
I like how it actually kind of sounds like they just put a mic in the car, because he's just sitting there and he's like, "Hey, so you're going to Camp Blood, huh?" And he's just
Yeah.
yelling, and she's just over there like, oh yeah, I'm talking a little quiet. You can barely hear me over the truck. And the truck's just over there like... it's a very good part.
That's Noah's imitation of
Is
a
it
truck.
though?
That's fine.
I like that. That was very funny. I like them just casually dropping very inaccurate science.
Oh yeah,
where
the vitamin
they're just
C
like,
neutralizes nitrates.
Yeah, what does that mean?
And there's no
Like, vitamin
context to
C,
it either. We don't know
I think
what they
it's-
were talking
No,
about
they're
at the
like
time.
they're clearly taking like a pill or something. You're like, why do we even take this?
Vitamin
C
C
neutralizes nitrates.
It's very common to take vitamin C at summer camps because you're bringing in so many kids and other people from the outside that it's a hotbed for like cold and flu viruses. We always took it at my camp because in the hopes that we wouldn't get it, but we always got it anyway. So Camp flu. So yeah, I know that's what they're talking about, but I feel like the writers of the movie just had no idea. Or maybe they did, and they just thought teens are stupid, because I always knew why I was taking it.
Right.
My note that says Speedo Dong, that was Ned. Ned sucks ass in this movie.
He does.
He's
Ned is
such
the
a sad
worst.
sack. He's just
Nice
hanging
guy
out with,
Ned.
He's hanging out with all of his friends exclusively with the couples. And then he's just like, oh, why will no one bang me? And it's like, dude, you're
Okay,
hanging out
so-
with committed people.
So
what are you
hold
doing?
on about that. The way he arrives with Kevin Bacon and Kevin Bacon's girlfriend, Marcy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The three of them were all cast at the same time because they were all friends already. So they had the right dynamic that they wanted for those three characters.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, isn't that neat?
That's a neat little factoid you got there. All right.
Yeah.
I like
so,
that. That's cool. That makes sense too because they really did interact well. Right down to when Marcy was whining about him when he wasn't around. Like,
yes.
I mean, Ned's really getting on my nerves. I kind of hate him.
Yeah.
That
And-
was such
And Bacon
a
was
real
just like,
moment.
well, what can you do?
Well, he's
yeah, and
Ned.
then he's just like, I'm Kevin Bacon. This, by the way, was like
His sixth movie, I think, on his IMDb page that
it's
he
the
ever
sixth
started.
list on his IMDb, but I'm pretty sure this is one of the first times that he actually had a lead character.
Ah.
Because
Yeah,
everyone
because
else,
one of his
husband, young couple,
second teenager.
yeah. So
He has
this
a
is
name
one
finally.
this is one of 4 times in his first 6 that he had a name, and it was a real movie, not a TV show.
Right.
And I'm gonna
This
go
is
out on
big
a limb
break.
and say that when he was on National Lampoon's Animal House as Chip Diller, that probably also was not a lead role.
I don't know.
TV movie. So I think this was his like this
Debut-ish.
kind of was his debut.
That's freaking wild, because that is not what I associate with Kevin Bacon.
No, Kevin
certainly
Bacon has
not.
distanced himself from this kind of stuff.
He's the footloose
He's
guy.
a respectable actor now.
He's
He
the
is.
footloose guy.
I don't know. I
let's
don't
see.
know that I've ever actually seen him be good in any movie at all. So
I
I
liked
don't
him
really
in the
get
following,
the big thing with
but I
him.
never
I
finished the
don't
following. either.
really watch
So
movies with Kevin Bacon in them.
Yeah.
let's see.
So there is a
I-
theory to hop back to Jason not being in this movie.
Yeah.
There is a
Yeah.
theory laid down by Ben and Steve from the Dead and Lovely podcast, which is another horror movie podcast that's almost as good as us.
I do be loving Ben and Steve. Shout out to Ben
absolutely
and Steve.
love them. They are one of my favorite podcasts of all time.
They're definitely gonna appreciate the shout out, since we have such a large fan base. And they're
Oh yeah,
very
we're so
small.
much more popular than they are, clearly. So, but they had a theory in their episode about Friday the 13th from a couple of years ago that they think Jason is involved in the kills of this movie, because if you look at the way that a lot of them are performed, it doesn't seem likely that 60-something Pam Voorhees would have the physical capacity to do it, because she doesn't look all that physically hardy, I suppose. Yeah. And when Alice is fighting her, she beats her up bad. She knocks her down a bunch of times. She hurts her a lot. So that combined with Tom Savini's hand reaching up from under
Also,
the bed
I'd
to
call
kill
her
Kevin
40
Bacon.
something.
What's that?
50-something.
I'd call her 40 or 50, by the way.
I believe she was actually 60.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Fight.
Kiss, kiss, kiss.
No.
No.
No. So
I
anyway,
like that theory though, because I don't know if you guys had subtitles on, but when we watched, the subtitles clearly said young Jason a couple times when it was, help me, I'm in the woods, help.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
Yeah, that is
so
what they said. That was weird.
Here's the bigger thing,
obviously
though.
it was supposed to be Pam doing the voice, because later you got
Sure.
to see her saying, kill them, mommy, kill them. Okay,
Yeah.
Jason, I will.
More
Like,
on that
but
in a minute. But yeah, like when Pamela herself shows up and is introduced to us as the audience and also to Alice, she's just arriving in her car. She wasn't there already, and there were a bunch of kills taking place just moments previously. So
More
unless she's
importantly, there were
capable of
bodies
being in
being
two
thrown through
places
the
at
window.
once, what was that?
there were bodies being thrown through the window, more importantly. Like,
Yeah, she couldn't have
the
done
body
that.
was thrown through the window, and then she ran 40 yards away, started her Jeep, and drove it down the driveway.
Yeah,
I
so
don't-
You guys are
unless-
just pointing out that this isn't a good movie.
Unless
No,
old
really,
Pamela's
we're pointing
just
out that
been
there's
living at a
subtext.
CrossFit gym for the last 20 years training to avenge her son.
I just love the idea of her at a CrossFit gym, like working the
with the
ropes.
Rocky soundtrack in the background.
Still wearing that sweater, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It helps with the sweat.
And the whole time just like, kill him, mommy, kill him.
Yeah, that's right. You kill him out there, Pamela.
And she's like winning competitions left and right. Just talking to herself the whole time. Like, I'm in between sets, Jason. But yeah,
Anyway.
there's a lot to suggest. And you know, sure, a lot of it does just come down to this is not a very good movie. Sure. But if we rationalize it afterward the way that we are right now, it's easy to see an awful lot of space for Jason to have actually been present helping his mom with this stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So it's
I
entirely
think-
possible, according to Ben and Steve's theory, that he drowned and they were able to, like, you know, they revived him or they helped him, you know, just before he died, basically. He was able to survive it. And maybe he was a little bit different after that, maybe not, whatever. But we can assume that she was probably a little bit unhinged before that. We can probably get the impression she was maybe not the most, maybe not the softest mom that a kid could have. Maybe she was a little bit authoritarian. Maybe she was a little bit abusive. We don't know. But what they were saying basically is after the drowning incident, she you know, basically just kind of snapped, went off the deep end, and was like, well, that's not my son. My son drowned. You're something else. And started treating him pretty weird, which is part of what would lead him to later become a killer. But also, you know, he would have started doing that because that's just what she was doing to avenge him. And it's
Also-
what he grew up with at that point.
While this movie may not have been planned to have sequels, adult Jason does exist in the sequels. So having them kind of tag team kill and just having him not present in the movie,
Yeah.
while it is, yes, grasping at straws of my favorite franchise to make it
Absolutely.
all work.
It's
I'm not-
reaching. It's
They
reaching.
definitely didn't plan this, but you could make the argument that Jason was around, also active,
Yeah.
and doing some of this stuff.
I like this theory, but
It's not
one
actually
of the
indicated
pieces
in the movie.
of yeah, with one of the pieces of evidence being like Tom Savini's hands coming up, like for the Kevin Bacon kill or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we can look too much into that, considering they literally had big hairy hands.
I know. I think
show
a more
up for
accurate
when
theory
Mrs.
is that
Voorhees
Pam's
died.
hands are just big and hairy.
As
Yeah.
we are
Pam
shown.
just has massive. It's from her years in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pam hits the gym is our new Gym Rat Pam is our
Gym
new
Rat
theory.
Pam.
I
And she's
want,
wearing the sweater to cover up how jacked she is so that nobody
Yeah.
suspects anything.
She was on
Yeah.
her rest day. That's why she was beat up like that, okay? She was trying to rest. She had just done a really intense set the day before, okay?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I want a YouTube series where it's just Pam Voorhees, like, leading workouts. She's like, yeah, get him, mommy, get him, while, like, riding a Peloton bike.
I'm just imagining like a Richard Simmons jazzercise thing.
Yeah.
Not Richard Simmons. Yeah, Richard Simmons.
Yeah, Richard Simmons.
I confused Richard and Gene for a second, and I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
Gene
wait.
Simmons.
Gene Simmons. I mean, he makes soda. How weird would this be?
But anyway, I think, are we kind of wrapped here? I feel like we're riffing on fun things, but like,
Yeah.
It feels
I
like
don't
we're
think I
getting
have
toward
anything else
closing
to
up,
say,
yeah.
really.
I don't have anything else that's
I think
constructive.
we have wrapped it up.
Yeah.
Final fun fact.
Yay.
The that sound. Harry Manfredini came up with the idea for that when he was watching the cut of the movie that he wrote the score from, and he heard Pamela saying, "Kill her, mommy, kill her." So it's the two sounds are ki from kill and ma from mommy. That's what that is. That's what she's hearing all the time, is just always kill
I thought it
mommy.
was like breathing for the second part. Like, ha,
That was
ha.
what I thought too. You don't hear the M sound all that much.
That's cool.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty
also
neat.
That's a fun fact.
that sound when we hear it is actually Harry Manfredini's voice.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
that's a fun fact.
That is a fun,
I like that.
fun fact. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I had to
Jeff.
have a bunch of fun facts because I forgot to take notes.
Okay.
With that, I suppose we'll start wrapping up.
Next week we'll
Noah.
talk about Nightmare on Elm Street
Yeah.
to kind of tie this with a neat little bow. And then it's my pick, but I haven't chosen one yet. So
Yeah. Technically not next week, but next episode.
yes,
Yeah.
that's what I meant. Next time.
Yep.
As always, I'm Emma. You can find me at mjade2017 on Twitter or Emma Panada on Twitch.
Yeah. Bubba the Bad, BUBBADABAD, Twitch, Twitter, and Insta. I stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have another podcast that you can find on my Twitter. That's all I've got.
Nina Wolverina on Twitch, Twitter, Insta, but I also have a horror Twitter under House Usher Rises, where I post sometimes. I posted a lot more during Halloween. I had this really cool artist that I found that did slasher themed pieces every day for the entire month of October. But now I'm kind of fading off again. I'm going to try and kick it into high gear, so maybe follow me and see if you see anything that you like.
I might do that.
Oh, thank you.
I'm Jeff. You can find me on Twitter at BubbaWubbadab, BUBBAWUBBADAB. I think I got that right.
Was that right?
And you can also find me.
actually right.
It's the W throws the whole thing off. It makes it so much harder to say. You can also find me on Instagram at TheHammerOfJeff.
Yeah. And with that, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Hasta.